Colin Crandall for the Ultimate Fan Experience. You guys also know me from MMA Power Hour, so we're doing a combination interview here. And we have one of my favorite people in this industry, a pioneer of fighting and wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Mr. John Shaddock. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, how you doing, Colin?
Doing good, brother. How about yourself?
Doing great. Just got done teaching class, so.
Nice, man. Always good to see you, man. Always love to see my Jet X brothers looking great in their jiu-jitsu gi. So, man, you're doing great, and I know we got several mutual friends, man. So it's great to talk to you. So you're doing a lot of stuff, man. You got your school. You've been wrestling. Your brothers are wrestlers, and you guys have been involved in martial arts for a long time. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, because you've done some amazing things, and I know you went over and competed in the team MMA fighting in Latvia. Tell us a little bit about your background, and then let us know a little bit about that and about some of the important things that you're working on now and those things coming up for you.
Well, about 1971 is when my career started. I have 3 older brothers. My parents got us wrestling mats for the garage, so we didn't have a car to put in the garage. We had wrestling mats. And my 3 oldest brothers were my first coaches. My brother Chris, my brother Scott, and my brother Dale. All of them state champion wrestlers, college wrestlers, and Golden Gloves boxers. And so I followed suit. I started wrestling. I got into high school. I got a little burnt out. Got into Golden Gloves boxing, and fought in the Golden Gloves. Was the New England Diamond Belt boxing champion. Then throughout the years, just got into different variety of martial arts, from Aikido, Jeet Kune Do, Shorin-ryu karate. And then eventually, as I got older and got out of shape, just found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's what I've been kind of loving with that for the last 15 years. And now I've found yoga. So I've got a lot of different stuff going on. Yeah. Absolutely,
man. It seems like you were really kind of like a mixed martial artist really early in the day with your wrestling and your different styles of traditional karate. What did you think? Like, I remember thinking, I know we're almost the same age. I remember thinking when UFC came out in 1993, I really didn't wrestle. I had been doing stand-up karate for several years, and then only started doing a little bit of wrestling when I started training jiu-jitsu. But I was aware before the first UFC of what was coming up. I had a copy of the press kit for UFC 1, and a friend of mine who was a chiropractor had been showing me some jiu-jitsu he'd learned from the Gracies in their garage in 1991. And so I was familiar with that, but I hadn't really been devoting a lot of my life other than just learning my stand-up karate like you did. And I didn't have any wrestling background, and jiu-jitsu was new to me. Add to the fact that it was only heavyweight. Back in those days, the most I ever weighed was like 170 pounds. So I didn't really see any opening for myself in it, and had other stuff on my mind. But as years went by, I started thinking, damn, I wish this had happened like 7 or 8 or 10 years earlier for me. You already had been training and doing your thing, but I think you were focusing on other stuff. But did you, when you first saw the UFC, feel there was so many something you might want to jump into? And before you answer that question, it wasn't MMA for people watching like it is today. It was headbutts, it was soccer kicks, stomping people on the ground, 12 to 6 elbows. Groin shots were legal, hair pulling was legal. So for the most part, most people who were not insane didn't want to get into it. But I'm curious, what was your feeling when you first saw it? Did you see that first event, or if not, what was the first event you saw?
Yeah, no, I didn't even think about doing it. If you remember, it was illegal in most states.
Yes.
I can't remember what state it was in, but it was in like an odd state, like not like a normal, like
the first couple were in Colorado. Yeah, they were in Colorado, yeah. And they were places like Alabama and Wyoming, and yeah.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I was really, really into boxing at the time, hugely, which I was kind of talk to you about kind of the state of boxing today. But at the time, I had my goals on hopefully becoming like an Olympic boxer and possibly going professional. all the way up to about 94. I had actually fought in a tough man contest too. So I've been all over the place doing all types of stuff. But no, I didn't even think about doing it until I took over the gym here. I started coaching it. But no, I was strictly a wrestler, and then I was a boxer, and then just strictly competing in jiu-jitsu. But I never thought about putting it together until I went over to Latvia like a maniac and decided that age 46, I needed to satisfy myself and go over and try and do MMA fighting.
That was amazing. Let me just ask really quickly that I'm going to ask you about your experience there. With the fact that you had boxed and wrestled, you didn't, I'm sure no one knew about the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but with the fact that you had wrestled competitively and boxed golden gloves, when you first saw the early UFCs, did it kind of excite you? Did you think it had some future? Were you sure the wrestlers were going to do as good as they did? What was your thought when you first saw it?
It was interesting. Well, it was, and I know they set it up that way. I've watched a couple of shows on they kind of handpicked the guys for hoist. But it was interesting to watch this little guy in a gi. I mean, I was totally like, I had no clue. This is going to sound ignorant, but I didn't know what jiu-jitsu was at the time. I was like, what the heck is this guy doing? Why is he wearing a gi? And, worked to his advantage. And then, I thought Kenny Shamrock was going to take him out. And no, man, he's just the beast. In fact, what's kind of funny is in a couple of weeks, I'm going to a friend's dojo and going to a hoist seminar. So
nice, very cool. Well, tell us about the Latvia experience, because that is amazing. And I'll tell you what, at 46 years old, to agree to go over there, because man, that looks like, I mean, just like the early UFC days, that looks like something that most people would be scared to do, because it seems like essentially you could end up, in there having 5 people smashing you. How did that come about? That you went over there, and at 46, did you have to think about it a little bit? Did your relatives or girlfriend or wife think you were out of your mind, or not to get too personal? But how did it come about? And then what were the thoughts with you and people around you leading up to it? What was it like?
Well, it was kind of funny. I actually had seen it on YouTube, the first one, TFC 1, and the guys at that thing were not very talented. So I'm like, man, I got to believe I could get a group of people to come over with me. So I tried to get a bunch of guys together locally. Nobody around Maryland wanted to go. So I actually reached out to the guy that ran the TFC. I found his email somehow. I don't know how. I just was persistent and contacted him and said, hey, have you thought of having a U.S. team? I didn't get any response. And like a month later, he's like, put a team together. We'll do it. Nice. So I'm like, cool. So then I ended up getting a hold of a promoter, and he actually got a school of guys that were wanted to do it. So I ended up going over with a group of guys I didn't even know. I'd never met before, and to fight. But I just wanted to try it. My goal was to get in the ring. I wanted to get as close to the UFC as I could. And at the age of 46, they're not going to put you in you're either going to go in the ring with a schmuck, or, I didn't want to go in with some young 20-something-year-old, but I wanted to get tested. And I went over there, and actually the guy ended up fighting, had wrestled in the Olympics and had fought Paul Bontello from the UFC twice. So this guy, and I had never done an MMA fight before. All I had ever done was, I'd done everything separately. I've done boxing, I've done kickboxing, I've done wrestling, I've done jiu-jitsu, but I'd never did put it all together. So it was kind of crazy. On top of the fact that we were the first fight. So we didn't get to see get to see the other teams fight. So they just kind of threw us out there. We had no game plan. And these guys, apparently it's kind of what they've been doing their whole lives, is when the clans actually fought, over time, this is how they settled disputes. So they were used to doing this 5-on-5 fighting.
Clans meaning like families, not like Ku Klux Klan.
No. Yeah,
like families. That's what they would call them in Latvia, like families.
Yeah. And then we had the fighters meeting, and the only thing that got taken out was the soccer kicks, because they had that in the first one.
Oh wow!
But uh, knees to the ground, which I ended up finding was not enjoyable, but I got I got my taste of that. You know, everything was pretty much, it was very much like Pride, the old Pride. There
Nice.
wasn't really a lot of rules, so it was crazy. And it was gosh, I can't, I think it was 40 by 40 ring.
Wow. So really an extra large ring.
But I will say they had 5 referees. So they had a referee for each group that was fighting. You know, I got banged up, but I didn't, you know, I ended up being able to fly home and be okay. So they did everything by the book. It was pretty well. It was odd though. There was no audience, but they videoed it.
Interesting. So the rule set, is it kind of like tag team wrestling, but just real fighting because only one person could be in there, or can everyone be in there at once?
No, there was a time I was getting kneed and kicked at the same time from 2 different people. So it was.
Man.
You could spin up, and which again, we hadn't done the rules yet, so we didn't know, we'd never fought that way. So when we were out there, I thought somebody was out already, and I'm getting hammered. You know, it was crazy. So these guys knew how to peel off. Like I'd maybe punch you and then turn around and kick the next guy, and it was kind of confusing. It was like being in a street fight. So
yeah, it sounds like it was like a real Chuck Norris movie fight, but for real life. That's wild.
A crazy thing was the Polish team that won the TFC2. These guys were gigantic. I mean, they were literally, I would have thought they were like NFL guys or something. Well,
Damn.
3 of the guys come out with the neoprene like ski mask with the skeleton faces on it.
Oh man, that's crazy.
And I'm like, these guys are going to take them off, right? No, they're fighting with these masks on their face.
Oh.
And each one of them is probably like 6'5", like, I don't know, 250, 260, and ripped, just big guys. So I'm like, why? So yeah, I'm trying to figure out why. Well, later on, what's really funny is later on, the gentleman that ran the thing had he rented out a bar, and we had like open bar and open, so we're all hanging out together after we just beat the crap out of each other. And I asked the guys in the Swedish team, why were the guys wearing masks? And they said, oh, they're wanted for war crimes. Wow. And they were afraid the video was going to show who they were. And I'm like,
that's crazy. You're fighting war criminals. They're in those balaclavas, as they call them back in Europe, which is the ski mask. That's nuts. That is freaking insane. That almost looked like if someone showed footage of that, it looked like some sort of a street fighter mugging or some insanity happening late at night or something. Man, that's wild. Okay. When you and obviously at 46 years old, you're your own man, but did you get any pushback from friends or your brothers? Or I know your brothers have been wrestlers all their life.
Well, they kind of said, nah, I probably shouldn't go do it. And I trained kind of oddly, but my brother Chris, my oldest brother, said, look, I don't think you should do any sparring because, you know, stupid things happen. You could get cut, you get nicked, and funny stories. I don't know if you remember the show The Contender. Yeah. The boxing show.
Definitely.
Well, I actually tried out for that when that came out, and I was in my late 30s for that. My wife told me, hey, you should try out for this. I don't know if she was trying to get rid of me or what, but so I ended up trying out for that, and I did get cut in sparring. And I did do it. I mean, I still tried out, but I got cut. So when my brother Chris said that, I'm like, that's a good idea. So really, I was in great shape fitness wise, but I hadn't done any sparring. I hadn't done any grappling because I was afraid of at 46, if I get hurt, this is my one opportunity, you know, I can't do it again. So when I went over there, I wasn't expecting wrestling. I was expecting striking, which I was hitting the bags and stuff. And then the first guy I picked is the Olympic wrestler, and I got hip toss. So.
Oh, man. But you were prepared. You knew your stuff. And I got to give you credit, man. It takes a lot of courage to go do that. A lot of guys that may be watching in their 20s or early 30s can understand to a small extent the courage of it. But in reality, going over somewhere when you're in your mid-late 40s at 46, and you got guys there in their 20s, or early 30s, it takes even more courage, which our young friends will find out as they get to be our age. But yeah, that definitely is something that a lot of people wouldn't have done. So credit to you, man, for always having been in combat sports and doing that. And then I think, if I'm not correct, you went over one other time or not, right?
Yes, I went over a second time. I had gone over with the USA team, and I mean, they already had a coach and stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to go over and fight again, but I would like to coach. Well, the English team was under the same banner, under the same promotion, so they sent me over to kind of give them the heads up on what was going on there. Well, I get there and they've got, you needed to have 5 guys to field the team. They had 7 guys. One guy was an actual coach who was older than me, and I wasn't going to fight. And then they had a kid that was a professional boxer. And you know how professional boxing is. If something's quirky, they can fine you. If you're ranked, I think he was ranked in the top 100.
Yeah.
And he got nervous because he saw it was being filmed, and he's like, well, I'm not fighting in this thing if it's going to ruin my ranking in the WBC or whatever the hell he was ranked in.
Right.
So now you got 2 guys out. So they've only got 5 guys. So now I'm the 6th man. And then instead of a coach, they put me in as a fighter. And these guys fight the Brazil team, who they absolutely annihilated, by the way, which I was surprised at. But the English team destroyed the Brazilian team.
Interesting.
But one of the guys is in the bathroom, dry heaving and just throwing up violently. I think it was just nerves.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I didn't train because I'm thinking I'm coaching, and I'm sitting
you're
there
like
going,
47 or 48, and you're like 47 or 48 at that point, right?
I was about 47, and I said, I'm not saying a word, because the last thing I want to do is be the American that goes out, and if they lose, and they were fighting Latvia, the team that the U.S. had lost to the last time. And I'm like, I'm not saying anything, because then, if they asked me, I would have done it, because, it's my obligation. But I was like, I'm not volunteering anything. That kid ended up going out, but they got hammered by Latvia. Latvia was tough.
Yeah, definitely amazing. A really interesting experience. Were the organizers pretty cool and pretty professional? Did they keep with their obligations and treat you guys pretty good, or was it just a kind of a
no, it was actually the first time we went was very cool. We got kind of like almost like the key to the city. They were excited to see the Americans, so they took us. We got like a tour, and we had we had a real nice hotel set up. It was fun. It was a really cool experience, and a place that I would never in 1,000 years have said I'm going to go to Latvia, but it was beautiful. It was a really nice place. It was people were really cool, so it was fun.
Definitely, a lot of pretty girls over there too, I heard.
Yes.
Yes. Indeed. Not that if you don't want to get wives or girlfriends mad, but absolutely a good place to go. Well, that's cool, man. What an experience! And then you've been running your own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school, and tell us a little bit about that, where that is, and how the curriculum works, in case people want to jump in there and train. I think at one point you did have a UFC fighter early in the day training over there. If you don't want to name names, you don't have to. And then tell us what's coming up, because I know that you're going to be opening, I think, a second branch with your brother. So tell us about your place first, about some of the people you just mentioned, and then when and where the new school is.
Well, I've been in the health club business pretty much from almost birth. My oldest brother had opened up health clubs, and me and my 2 other brothers, so my 3 older brothers, we had all run health clubs. So if you don't know anything about the health club industry, it's kind of crazy, because when you're in the sales department, you're sometimes not in great shape because you're always eating fast food. Yep. You're never working out, because anytime you're out on the workout floor, then that's when the good prospects come walking in. So I was getting heavy, and I'm like, I got to do something. So I stumbled into this jiu-jitsu school and started training. And I had an agreement with him. If I taught his guys to box, I could train for free, which was very cool. And I ended up down the road, he came up to me and he said, I'm thinking about going to this other location. Would you want to come with me? And I said, I live 5 minutes from here. And he said, do you want to take it over? Which in about a million years, never thought I would be taking over an MMA gym. My wife had gotten a promotion at work, and I became like Mr. Mom slash run the gym, and it all worked out. And 15 years, we're still going strong. So
That's awesome. What's the location of that
oh,
school?
we're in Eldersburg, Maryland, which is in Carroll County. We're about an hour and a half northwest of Baltimore. So
What's it called? What's the school called?
Shaddock MMA Fitness.
And you're there right now. As come the background.
Yes,
where you
I
are.
am. And we basically the philosophy that we come up with is fitness through the martial arts. I used to have competitive boxers and competitive MMA guys, and just kind of thrown that to the side and really focused on the everyday person. The hobbyist in jiu-jitsu is how they're called, and it's boxing fitness. We don't do any competitive. I have some guys that want to lightly spar, but for the most part, it's just about getting fit, and again, hopefully soon be adding yoga to the program. So we'll be adding different forms of fitness through different forms of martial arts. But the important thing is just trying to stay alive longer. As you get older, unfortunately, relatives pass away and stuff, and you start thinking about your own mortality and what can I do to keep myself without beating myself up. I don't spar anymore boxing. I took a lot of shots, and am hoping that as I get older, that doesn't have an effect on you, because you always have the CTE and stuff like that. And jiu-jitsu, I love it, and it just, and then the yoga has helped me to be able to maintain my jiu-jitsu. So it's all kind of working together.
Absolutely. Let's talk about that yoga, because you're connected with and you're going to be representing or operating a Diamond Dallas Page yoga program in your school. And that has gotten so much amazing reaction. I mean, DDP is killing it. He's everywhere. He is looked up to. Wrestlers are seeking him out. He's helping a lot of former wrestlers. I think he's probably filthy rich. And because this program really works. Tell us, briefly what attracted you to the idea of the DDP yoga, and then how soon you think that's going to be brought in. And then let us know, is that going to be brought into the school where you are now, or the new school with your brother? And then let us know about that school. So a lot of good stuff here, but I know you can give an answer.
It's basically years ago I had gotten it, and then I got the DVDs to just give you an idea how long ago it was before all the digital stuff.
Yep.
And I liked it, but it set it aside for some reason. Well, recently, my wife and I were scrolling through, I think it was Netflix or something, and we saw the Jake the Snake story. And Jake the Snake, I don't know if you've watched it, but he really was on a downward spiral. And DDP, through the yoga, got him to lose all this weight and kind of relive. And my wife went, he lost all that weight with yoga? And I said, yeah. So she goes, we should try that. So I bought the app. We bought some mats for the house. We started doing it, and I started to fall in love with it. And at the time, I had done some stuff to my back and banged my back up, and I wasn't able to train jiu-jitsu. But this has kind of helped me to kind of come back and start doing jiu-jitsu again, which is something I was really missing. So it's kind of a win-win situation. And then I started bringing it up to one of my students, and they go, why don't you get a yoga program here? And I'm one of these people that kind of like to do everything myself. So I'm like, well, I'm not certified. And they said, well, we want you to teach it. So I'm like, all right. So then I actually contacted DDP and said, hey man, how does the whole thing work? How can I get certified? And he's got a really good group of guys that are helping, trying to get me, I guess what you call fast track through it, because I do have a fitness background. I've taught classes, I've taught boxing and jiu-jitsu, so I understand it. But there's a lot to it. So I'm hoping by October I'm here. Whether it's going to ever go to the Essex location, which is my brother's location, that needs to be seen. The first thing I have to do is start it here. But pretty excited that my brother Dale has opened up a place. He's on his 6-month anniversary, and he's having an open house this Saturday from 10 to 2 at the Essex location. Now, he's Golden Gloves champ, and right now he's primarily boxing, but I'm going to be going up doing a jujitsu demonstration. And if we have some people that are interested in doing jujitsu, there's a chance I may be teaching down there sometimes too. So we can have jujitsu at both locations.
Very cool. And all you and your brothers wrestled as well. So you have that wrestling component.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Dale was multiple time state champ, who's the owner there. My brother Chris took second in the prep school nationals. He took seventh in the college nationals in Humboldt, California. My brother Scott was captain of Cortland wrestling team in college, and he was a multiple time state champion as well. So, and he was a coach for 31 years. So we've got, I had a huge kind of pedigree to fall back on, kind of like, I guess like you would call us kind of like the Gracie family. Ours is more like wrestling and boxing, but, and now I've added the little, I'm the only one that's per se that does jujitsu per se, but, all my brothers have been involved in martial arts from Aikido to Shorin-ryu and all the other stuff.
Very cool. I just realized that we've actually got meeting time of 7 minutes and 8 seconds left. And then the meeting will be cut off. I didn't even know that. But so let's quickly jump into some UFC, and then we'll come back in the last minute to remind people where you are and where the schools are. Okay, UFC, we better make it quick because it's under 7 minutes now. Okay, main event is going to be Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. We have Alex Pereira jumping up to go against Jan Blachowicz. Wonder Boy Stephen Thompson against Michel Pereira. Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green, Michael Chiesa, Kevin Holland, Derek Lewis. So let's in the first few, let's just spend a couple seconds on that real quick. Derek the Black Beast Lewis, right? Black Beast needs this win. He's such an impressive guy. He's got to win. If he wins this by knockout, I think he beat the Brazilian Marcos Rogério de Lima, although I probably wouldn't bet a penny on it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm not really familiar with the other person, and Derek he needs a win. So I think he's going to come in on fire for this one.
Without a doubt. Kevin Holland and Michael Chiesa. I think Kevin Holland, he's like 7 or 8 years younger. Chiesa has only fought once or twice in the last 4 years. Holland fights every 3 or 4 months. He's the longer, taller guy. The jiu-jitsu is pretty even. Holland's hands are way better. Wrestling is better for Chiesa, but he's getting a little bit older. I think Kevin Holland wins this. He's a play favorite. I think he's a solid bet, although Chiesa's a tough guy. What do you think, real quick?
I'm gonna agree with you again. I just watched Holland. God, who's his instructor? His instructor's really good jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, Travis Luter, and
Travis, yes,
and he trains with also Justin Adams, my friend, who's a black belt, and and Kevin's got a black belt. So good guys there.
Yeah, I got to go with Holland on that one.
Yeah, me too. All right. Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green, who the hell knows what happens there? I know they're both really good guys. I know everyone wants to see Tony come back and win. If Tony somehow wins, I wish he would win and retire immediately because he's taken a lot of damage and he's not the same as he used to be. He's such a warrior, but I don't know. I have no idea what to do here. I probably Bobby Green wins, but I think everyone's cheering for Tony. Nothing against Bobby Green because he was such a great warrior once upon a time.
I'll tell you, I just looked at him on Embedded. He looked really fit, and he looked like a different, I don't know, something different about him. So I'm going to take Ferguson on that, but I'm going to go with the oddball challenge. But I think he's got a shot, man, especially I love the 10th Planet stuff, and I've been playing with that a little bit myself. So I'm going to have to be rooting for the 10th Planet stuff there. Absolutely.
Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Michel Pereira. Man, that is going to be a striking clinic. You got Wonder Boy with his karate style, kind of like Machida karate, coming from a point karate background. I don't even know if point karate exists anymore. At some point, it probably won't. It's a relic of the past, but his style is unique. He's super accurate, really precise. He's getting a little bit older, though. I think he's got to be close to 40 years old, if not 40. And he's going against Michel Pereira, who's like 10 years younger than him. A capoeira stylist with a little bit of Muay Thai mixed in there. It's the only bad thing that could happen is if they end up on the ground the whole time wrestling, which I don't think is going to happen. But I think it's going to be super exciting. I'm leaning Wonder Boy. Yeah, I'm leaning Wonder Boy, but with giving away like almost 10 years advantage that Eric could take it. I'm on the fence on this. How about you?
I like Wonder Boy. I like his whole persona and watching him on the Ultimate Fighter and stuff. He's really getting into it. I think he's revitalizing himself, and the fact that he doesn't have to worry about the wrestling. I think if this dude was a grappler, he'd be in trouble. But I think he's gonna take it, and we might put his gloves in the ring after. I don't think he's gonna be around much longer.
I mean, Wonder Boy off of a win might retire. That would be cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be very cool. I'd love to see that because he's a really great guy, really, really great guy. And I think you might be right. You're convincing me. I'm leaning more toward Wonder Boy because technically he's so good. All right, we're down to just under 3 minutes. Jan Blachowicz, Alex Pereira. If it stays on the feet the whole time, Pereira wins, but it won't. Blachowicz is going to take him down. Izzy pretty much out wrestled Alex Pereira, who has not much experience overall in MMA and in grappling. I just think this is the fight Jan Blachowicz wins. He's about 6-7 years older, maybe 5 years older, which is not a huge difference. I just think he's a more balanced and experienced MMA fighter. I think Blachowicz beats Pereira. How about you?
Yeah, that sounds boring again, but yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I think Pereira is a scary individual, but I think Blachowicz, because he's got the grappling, and you can't sleep on him with his power either. He can hit. Both guys can really hit. I would say don't go to the refrigerator, don't go to the bathroom during this fight because I think it could be over quick. But if Blachowicz gets him to the ground, I think it's a done deal.
Yeah, I agree. Under 2 minutes now, so we better do maybe 1 minute max. Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. This is a rematch. I think when they first fought, Gaethje was Berserker Gaethje, who was just Gaethje 1.0. He would go, full speed. He didn't move his head at all, and that's when Poirier beat him 5 years ago or so. Since then, he's Justin Gaethje 2.0. He's more calm. He doesn't go out there crazy. He fixes shots. He does move his head a little bit. I think Gaethje is going to introduce Poirier to Justin Gaethje 2.0, and Gaethje gets his revenge, but it's going to be a war. Really.
I think Poirier, and I'll tell you why. I think Trevor Whitman has a great game plan, but I think they can't deviate, and that's the problem. I think they have their set game plan. If Dustin does something different that throws their thing off, I think it throws off their whole program. And we talked about the jiu-jitsu being kind of his Achilles heel, and Dustin has really good jiu-jitsu when he sets his mind to it. So I think he could. I think he's going to win again. So this will be the one I disagree with you on. I got it for you.
Totally okay. I think we only have 30-some seconds. Let us know really quick the locations of your school now and the name of the school you and your brother are opening.
Shaddock MMA Fitness. Mine is in Eldersburg. My brother's is in Essex, Maryland. And this weekend from 10 to 2, don't miss his open house. It's going to be a blast. Food, prizes, and jiu-jitsu demonstrations. Don't miss it.
Fantastic. John Shaddock, thank you so much, my brother. Stay with me. We'll end the recording, and I'll talk to you in a minute. Appreciate it. Colin Crandall from UFE, MMA Power Hour. Great to